Good evening, welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridge, and the federal NDP may have been reduced to 24 members of parliament, but it was all smiles and enthusiasm as they were sworn in today.
Two of them are rookie Indigenous MPs, and as Todd Lamoran reports, Indigenous issues were front and center.
Algonquin Elder Claudette Kamada acknowledged the NDP's support for Indigenous issues during her blessing.
And I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your dedication, your hard work, your commitment, and your care for First Nations people. And we do need your support. We do.
Next, it was NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's turn to tell new MPs who they are working for as they take the oath, mentioning Grassy Narrows' fight against mercury poisoning and families caught in an underfunded child welfare system.
Kids who are just demanding basic fairness, that they should receive equal funding, and as a result of not getting equal funding, kids have died. We're here to fight for them, to say they should not be brought to court by the government, that appeal should be dropped immediately. We're here for those kids.
Among the crowd were two new Indigenous MPs. Mumi Lok Kakok is the young Inuk from Nunavut, who had several members of her family in Ottawa. Leah Gazan is MP for Winnipeg Centre and shared her thoughts on Trudeau's new cabinet.
No matter how the cabinet is shuffled, I think, if they're really serious about reconciliation, if they're really serious about human rights in this country, if they're really serious about honouring the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, that needs to be shown through action and not words.
Singh was asked if he will still support the Trudeau minority if Indigenous concerns, like a new UNDRIP bill, is not mentioned in the throne speech. He believes there will be a government-sponsored UNDRIP bill.
So far I have nothing to believe that they won't do it in terms of the language that I've heard, but I know that they say nice things during a campaign and need to be pushed to deliver. I'm going to push hard to make sure they deliver.
Gazan says a new UNDRIP bill should improve on the failed private members bill, C-262.
Certainly with the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal ruling, maybe they need to extend that bill to include operational practices so that they can't just randomly take First Nations kids to court.
The next big event in Ottawa will be Trudeau's announcement of his new cabinet tomorrow. Todd Lamoran, APTN National News, Ottawa.
When Justin Trudeau's new cabinet gets sworn in tomorrow, each member will get a mandate letter that spells out what they must do over the next 4 years. Alex Neve is Secretary General of Amnesty International, and he has a list of priorities to uphold human rights that he'd like to see included in those mandate letters. He joins us now via Skype. Alex, thanks for joining us. What are some of the human rights priorities regarding Indigenous peoples you'd like to see included in the mandate letters?
Well, there's certainly a long list, but at this point we've reached out to the Prime Minister with 10 overarching priorities with respect to human rights concerns of a whole wide variety in Canada, and certainly there's a number of issues directly related to the rights of Indigenous peoples in that list of 10. That very much includes, we want to see the unfinished business with respect to Bill C-262 from the last Parliament come back as a priority. This, of course, is the initiative to finally have a legislative framework for implementing the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in Canada that was thwarted by Conservative senators in the spring. The government is committed to do so. We want to make sure that in this time of minority government with all sorts of other things on their mind, that remains a top priority. We have also highlighted, and this did get a bit of attention during the campaign, the very, very severe situation that the people of Grassy Narrows First Nation continue to face in northwestern Ontario as a result of mercury contamination. The Prime Minister, in the televised leaders debate, made a commitment that he is intending to get it done, and that's particularly the need to build a care home in the community for those suffering the terrible impact and consequences of mercury contamination. It's a promise that's been hanging around for a long time. We certainly need to see that happen. And then a third that I would highlight is certainly the need to move forward very quickly on the outcome of the national inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. That, of course, the final report came out just before Parliament rose. We heard a few words from both Minister Bennett and the Prime Minister at the time, but no action was taken, and that needs to start to move quite quickly.
Number one on your list is reducing carbon emissions. Won't this be a bit of a no-brainer to include in the Minister of Climate Change's letter?
Well, it certainly, absolutely, we imagine that there's going to be a lot in the Minister of Environment and Climate Change's letter around reducing carbon emissions. We're concerned that it won't be anywhere near at the level and with sort of the bold targets that are so necessary. What Canada has in place right now, frankly, isn't good enough. It's not going to get us to where we need to be in making our global contribution to addressing this mounting crisis. So we're going to be looking for what kind of action is laid out in the mandate letter, and does it really commit Canada to going further than we've gone so far?
Alex, how can a cabinet minister address something that might be out of their hands, like racial profiling?
Well, racial profiling within policing is a very serious human rights concern in Canada. It impacts on a number of communities, but obviously very much impacts on Indigenous communities in places like Thunder Bay and elsewhere. Now, a minister may not have the direct powers in their hands to end racial profiling per se, and especially in Canada, where policing is largely a matter left to provincial and municipal governments. But Canada has a very important overarching coordination role. Canada does, of course, have authority and responsibility for the RCMP, and they play a significant role in many communities across the country. So we would be really looking in this instance for the Minister of Public Safety to be given some sort of mandate to look at this issue, to try to address it in a concerted way across the country so that we have some consistent standards that apply everywhere, and really take us a step forward to ending practices like carding and random street checks, which are the most obvious manifestations of racial profiling in policing.
Alex, we'll have to leave it there, but interested to see what unfolds tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for your interest.
The Nunavut government is calling for an independent police investigation over the RCMP's handling of the death of a 23-year-old Inuk woman. In a statement released Tuesday, Nunavut President Johannes Lamp said that the RCMP did not conduct a thorough investigation of the death. He questions the RCMP's treatment of the crime scene and says they failed to interview key witnesses. The body of Tama Bennett was found Friday in a wooded area near Happy Valley Goose Bay, Labrador. The RCMP released a statement on the death of the Inuk woman today. It says that they are working with forensics and the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner and are continuing the investigation.
The Saskatchewan Hockey Association recently announced that the Beardies, Blackhawks Midget AA and AAA teams from Beardies and Okimausis First Nation are being dropped by the league. Both teams have been part of the league for over 20 years. Priscilla Wolf has more.
The Saskatchewan Hockey Association General Manager Kelly McClintock says they put a call out to let all teams know they were starting the league from scratch. McClintock says they had specific criteria for the teams that were going to make the cut.
We said what we'll be reviewing and evaluating each application by is the strength of your minor hockey association, your ability to provide billeting in your community and having a billeting coordinator, the educational opportunities in your community, and there's an educational coordinator, the coaching resources, are they local, are they, so we looked at all of that.
Two other communities will also no longer be part of the league after last week's elimination. Unity lost their AA team and Notre Dame Argos lost one of their AAA teams. As a result, Estevan and Warman are gaining teams that will be part of next season's AAA league. McClintock says they decided to keep the number of teams to 12 in the league.
We had enough minor hockey associations applied that there would be 14 teams. So we evaluated all those applications, and we, based on that criteria that we had, and we came up with the top 12 that we felt were the best, and those were the recommendations that were made to our board and approved.
In a prepared statement by the Blackhawks Minor Hockey Association, President Jason Cisequasis stated, "Our AAA Blackhawks are the only AAA midget team in all of Canada to be located on and operated by First Nation, the only one. In this era of reconciliation, this team should be a point of pride and a flagship franchise for a sports governing party like the Saskatchewan Hockey Association." When APTN asked the Saskatchewan Hockey Association if an appeal is possible, McClintock says, unfortunately, the decision cannot be appealed.
No, yeah, the decision was made by the Board of Directors of Saskatchewan Hockey, so there's no appeal process to the Board of Directors for that.
McClintock says demographics were considered when choosing which teams made the league. Priscilla Wolfe, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Coming up, Winnipeg's Bear Clan is branching into new services.
But first, here's a look at Wednesday's weather forecast.
Starting off on the east coast, we've got 4 and cloud in St. John's and 4 in Halifax. -7 sunshine in Kuujjuaq, Nain -1 and snow. -2 mix of sun and cloud in Chibougamau, Quebec City, snowing and 1 degrees. Sunny and 6 degrees in Toronto, 3 and snow in North Bay. 3 and snow in Timmins and Kapuskasing, 0 in Sioux Lookout and snow. -15 sunshine in Puckatawaga, -6 and sunny in Churchill. +3 and snow in Winnipeg, -2 and snow in Brandon. Welcome back. The Blair Clan Patrol took the streets 4 years ago to help Winnipeg's vulnerable. What started as walking the streets has now extended to include a drop-in food sharing program, which has grown to service thousands of people a month. Now, Brittany Hobson explains that the group is looking to help people run it to keep it running.
With a bag in hand, Grant Graham is ready to pick out tonight's meal. It doesn't come from a grocery store. Instead, Graham is one of the thousands of people to rely on the Bear Clan Patrol's food security program this month.
A lot of seniors depend on it. Our government really don't look after us. I've got 41 years of driving semi, and because there's no pension as far as doing that, you've got to put into something yourself.
Graham uses the program up to 3 times a week. He gets fruits, vegetables, bread, and baked goods such as cookies. Graham used to use other food banks, but switched to the Bear Clans this past year.
This is handy. It's only 4 blocks from my house. It's also open 7 days a week, so you don't need an appointment or medical card or anything.
It's not just about convenience. Access to free food allows Graham to put that money toward his medication. The program started in 2017 after the organization noticed food insecurity was a major concern in the area.
In our community, you know, it's easier to get bongs and crack pipes at our corner stores than it is to get an apple or an orange.
Bear Clan Patrol recently commissioned a study from the University of Manitoba to track the impact of the program. From January to June of this year, the program served more than 12,000 people. Favel expects the number to reach 40,000 by the end of the year.
We don't give a lot of food out, but we give enough so that they can get by today, and then they come back again tomorrow and do it again.
All the food is donated from local stores and vendors. Favel says the program fills a gap in the area where grocery stores are few and far between, and as a result is changing the lives of community members for the better.
A determinant of health, and if you can't get access to fresh fruit and vegetables, your health is going to suffer, and so this is what we offer.
Megan Lorette has recently started using the program after she moved to Winnipeg a month and a half ago. The mother of 5 says it has made the move easier.
It was hard, like transitioning on social assistance, and we just come and they gave us like toiletries and like food and like fresh fruit and like vegetables and things, and that helped.
As the program continues to expand, so do the expenses that go along with it. Favel says the group needs to hire more staff, including a second driver. He hopes the study will bring in new fundraising opportunities by the new year. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Many in Manitoba will know him as Joe from Winnipeg. But Ian Ross is also the first Indigenous person to ever win the Governor General's Award for Drama. The award-winning playwright and author is our guest tonight on Face to Face. His latest offering, The Third Color, explores what's next when it comes to reconciliation.
And when it comes to reconciliation, in a funny way, I think some people within the country actually think it's done. It's a done deal. We're good. Whereas if you talk to anyone who's Indigenous, they're going to give you the opposite. Like, well, we haven't even started, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure where we go. I'd like to think that we do keep moving forward because I've seen change in my life. I've seen positive change in my life, but it's been slow.
And you can catch the entire episode of Face to Face right here after the news.
Time for another quick break, and then we'll have a story on an international Indigenous roller derby team, so stick around. To northern Alberta, we've got -12 in snow in Fort Chip, sunshine, and -5 in Peace River. 0 in snow in Edmonton, and -1 in sunshine in Calgary. 7 and sunny in Campbell River, Bella Coola, 5 and sunshine. Mix of sun and cloud, and 0 in Dease Lake, 1 and sunny in Prince George. Dawson City's snow and -11, -17 in snow in Old Crow. -9 in snow for Norman Wells, -15 in sunny in Wrigley. -20 in snow in Inuvik, Fort McPherson, -20 in snow as well. -23 in clear up in Cambridge Bay, -25 in clear in Baker Lake. -18 and sunny in Arctic Bay, -19 and sunshine for Igloolik, and -9 and snow in Iqaluit.
Welcome back. It's definitely not something you see every day. This past weekend, Team Indigenous, an international team comprising 20 First Nations, triumphed over the Jewish roller derby in a championship game in Montreal. But for the women competing, it's about much more than just competition. Lindsay Richardson explains.
A warning comes at the starting line.
5 seconds.
4, 3, 2, and 1. The roller derby jam begins. Erupting in a high-impact, full-contact scrum, intimidating to most.
Having 8 wheels under you is a great equalizer, so it's not all about your size. It's not even about having roller skated forever. You still have to be able to learn how to move dynamically, to learn gameplay, to learn good teamwork, to be able to listen to your teammates and listen to your own body and kind of know how to navigate the track.
Here in Montreal, 2 teams from borderless nations square off in a championship clash. The Jewish roller derby and Team Indigenous, a group of ferocious female competitors from over 20 First Nations, united in sport thanks to April Fournier, aka Jumpy McGee.
We have people that are in the Vancouver area, we have people who are in the New York area, we have people who are in Maine and New Mexico and Arizona, the Southwest, all over the U.S., and Florida and Alaska, and it's just created this really great global family that we have now.
Despite the happy family dynamic, it takes guts and guile to make it in derby. Scoring players like Chris My Ass or Ashtray skate counterclockwise on the circuit track, accumulating points for each blocker they pass.
Go, Casey, go!
Once an entertainment sport like wrestling, today's real-life derby matches are a far cry from over-the-top Hollywood depictions of the 1970s. Though cathartic and rigorously athletic, in this league, costumes are encouraged.
This is like the Olympics of roller derby. To have been invited to play on this stage, to play on this track, is massive.
Once a feared blocker, Jennifer Bennett, dubbed Windigo, is now retired, working to promote the team behind the scenes while also nurturing the players.
In our culture, kind of like this middle-aged women, or like my age woman, we are the people who are in the background, like making things happen, not necessarily, standing out in front in the limelight.
Though managing a team across continents is no small feat, smaller communities struggle to keep their teams running. In Ganawage Mohawk territory, the Wagon Burners, founded by squarrier Michelle Cross, disbanded after only a few years, but left an impact all the same.
It took off, and I was shocked, and I made so many amazing new sisters through this team that I probably wouldn't even have met, even living in our own community. It was very uplifting to watch it.
Now a wrangler for Team Indigenous, Cross says the team's derby stronghold is keeping interest alive. But everyone can agree the game itself is expensive to play.
When you have marginalized communities that may live in poverty or may not have the same access to resources, you miss out on a lot of really great people and a lot of really great talent.
To bridge the gap, 10 Indigenous youth were gifted championship passes through Native Montreal to both recruit and inspire, regardless of background.
We help people bring them back and reconnect with their culture, and also that we're doing the same sport together. So through that framework that people are being reconnected, and it's really powerful.
I've never had a team that you only see each other once or twice a year, but you can come together and put everything together on the track and pull out a win against a really great team.
If anything, they're proof that teamwork prevails in any kind of jam. Lindsay Richardson, APTN National News, Montreal.
Looks like a lot of fun. It was a big night in Vancouver for Indigenous fashion designers as the second annual Indigenous Fashion Week kicked off with a bang. APTN's Tina House was there.
It's the opening night for Vancouver Indigenous Fashion Week, and this year it's being held at the famous Orpheum Theatre. With its opulent setting, it's the perfect place for glamour and a showcase of some of Canada's finest designers. Jolene Mitten is not only a model, but also the founder of the event.
The first one is obviously this one at the Orpheum, and then the QE Theatre, which is the free tourism, first night on 20th, and then the 21st is All My Relations, which is kind of like a collective of all different places of Indigenous designers where they come from. And our last show is at MOV. It's like kind of our cool down show with 3 designers that are really exciting.
It's completely sold out as the crowd anxiously awaits the show. Meanwhile, backstage, it was last-minute makeup touch-ups, and for designers like Yolanda Skelton, it was making last-minute adjustments to one of her models. She says her culture is a huge part of everything she does.
So the piece that I'm going to be putting on you is the fireweed, which is my crest, and so that's the crest that's on here. And so when you're thinking about walking down the runway, I want you to think about your crest and about your people, about where you come from.
And then the moment arrived, the much-anticipated Red Dress event, honoring missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. For co-host Lorelei Williams, the issue of MMIWG is personal.
So we need to raise awareness of this issue as much as we can, whether it's through art, dance, songs, fashion shows. We need to keep this in the eyes of everybody because it's not stopping.
Musqueam Nation artist Deborah Sparrow was first on the catwalk.
You know, my passion is hand-made textiles, of course, which was the passion of our people. And so I've started with hand woven, and then I moved into the commercial line, and then the commercial line moves into the fashion line. So we're progressing, we're moving, and yet we stay connected to who we are by the reflections of the patterns.
Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
2 amazing looking events there.
No kidding, back-to-back good C block.
That is your APTN National News for this Tuesday. For news anytime, visit our website, aptnnews.ca.
And be sure to join us live tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Time for an In Focus. We'll be discussing media coverage of Indigenous people, whether the reporting is improving. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Have a great night.
And I'm Dennis Ward. Stick around. Face to Face is next. See you back here tomorrow.